friends, I'm Brea, and today we are going to do a little mini book haul. These are all books that I've acquired over the last few months, and I'm not going to lie, this year I've been trying to do a better job of just having self-control when it comes to buying books. So I only have 16 books to share with you guys today, but I have broken them out into 3 categories. And if you are subscribed to my channel and you've seen a few of my recent videos, you may have seen some of these, but most of them I have never shared on my channel before. So the first category I'm going to go over are the books that were gifted to me by publishers. And I will say at this point, I don't really accept anything that I'm really not interested in or excited about. So I'm definitely excited about everything that I will share with you guys. And so the first 4 are mystery thriller. I feel like mystery thriller and sci-fi are really like my bag, okay? And so the first one is I Did Warn Her by Sion Gilbert. And this is a locked room mystery, but on a billionaire's yacht. And listen, if someone's on a billionaire's yacht, that means y'all got rich people problems. And I love when like rich people are being messy. And I love locked room mysteries because I feel like the reader gets a chance to be a detective. You really tend to get to know all of the characters and you kind of have to piece together who you think is a suspect. And so in this book, someone on the boat ends up dying, but there's also a jewel thief. So we're trying to figure out who's stealing jewelry, who's the murderer, are they the same people? And then the next book is actually by Paula Hawkins, and I feel like she is such a popular author, but I have never read anything by her. Listen, I know she wrote The Girl on the Train. I haven't read it. But this is The Blue Hour and it comes out on October 24th. And so this book is almost kind of following like a cold case. There is an island that is only accessible for 12 hours a day. And some woman's husband went missing 20 years ago, but then a new discovery comes about and kind of reopens the situation. And the back of this says that it is a masterful novel that asks searing questions of ambition, power, gender, and perception. So super curious to get into this. Again, I haven't read anything by Paula Hawkins. Let me know down below if you think I should read The Girl on the Train before I get into any of her other works. And then the next 2 books I'm super excited about. One of them has been out for a little while, like I have a finished copy, and the other one doesn't come out until next year. But the first one is 13 Months Haunted by Jimmy Giuliano. And so this is the author of Dead 11. And I feel like part of the reason I liked Dead 11 was because it had this kind of nostalgic, like throwback kind of atmosphere, because it was a town in the present, but they were all kind of stuck in the past, so they didn't have modern technology. It kind of really talked about some of the pop culture and things that were happening like back in the 90s. And so this book follows a teacher who has a student that her mom follows her around essentially everywhere she goes, including the bathroom, which is very weird. But the girl isn't allowed to use modern technology, so she's at school, unable to use a computer. But I think this book does have like Y2K vibes because all of the kids are kind of obsessed with that era. So there is, I think, some calls back to Y2K in this book. But I have a feeling this book is gonna have some eerie vibes because there's rumors going around that the girl's mother is a witch and that they live in a haunted house. So I'm really interested to see where this goes because Dead 11 actually took a turn that was a little darker than I was expecting, but I actually really enjoyed it. So I know this book already came out. I haven't seen too many people actually talk about it yet. So I'm excited to get into this and hope that I at least enjoy it as much as I enjoyed Dead 11, if not more. So we'll see once I get into that. And then this next book is the last thriller that I was gifted, and it comes out in February of 2026, and that is The Exes by Leodora Darlington. I decided to accept this because the publisher said if I liked Riley Sager, I would like this book. And listen, me and Riley Sager, we like this, okay? So I was like, you know what? You guys knew how to sell this book to me. I think this is gonna be up my alley because this follows a woman who's essentially afraid that she is going to kill her husband or like her boyfriends. And she starts to think about like some of her other exes that have died. And she's like, did I have something to do with that? And so she's clearly kind of having some memory loss, which I know for some people can be a miss in books. Me personally though, I love it, okay? Let's get your memory going together, okay? And I just feel like the premise of her thinking and her being afraid that she's gonna kill the person that she's with and having that knowledge is kind of creepy. So I'm really excited and interested to see like how this book kind of unravels and like how the story is told, because I definitely feel like it could probably be hit or miss. But I'm hoping to actually get to this arc before it actually comes out so that I can give you guys my thoughts, and so you guys can kind of determine if you want to pick it up or not. And then the next two books are actually romances by the same author. So we have Groove and Fever by Bernice L. McFadden. And so I believe Groove is the first book and then Fever is the second book. And it follows a group of 4 friends living in New York City in the early 2000s. But it all feels like a little messy with all of them, because some of them are in like a seemingly perfect relationship. There's someone else who doesn't really want a relationship, but like really just wants to have a lot of material things. There's one that is like kind of going through a messy divorce and like custody battle. And here's the thing, sometimes I just like mess. I like being in other people's business because my life is fairly drama free, but I like it in a fictional sense and being in other people's mess. So I'm excited to get into these and just hopefully I enjoy the writing style so that I can kind of pick these up back to back. These did come out earlier this month, so by the time that you're seeing this, these will already be available. And then the next 3 books I'm going to talk about are actually books that I borrowed from a friend. I would love to see that more in people's book hauls, because I have a friend that we always talk about books. What are you reading? What should I read? Would I like it? And so when we have one that we're like, okay, you should pick this up, we'll go ahead and exchange books. So I have 3 that my friend thinks that I'll enjoy, or that I know that she had on her shelf that I don't own. And so the first 2 are actually part of a series, and it's the Crowns of Nyaxia series, which I had never heard before until my friend mentioned it. And then I went on Goodreads and saw that the first book had over like 700,000 ratings, and I was like, I have clearly been living under a rock or something. And so the first one is The Serpents and the Wings of Night. And so for those of you who may have also been under the same rock that I was and have never heard of this series, this follows a human girl, but she kind of lives among vampires, and the only way that she can kind of really make a name for herself is to enter into this tournament with 3 other like vampire houses. And so she ends up having to make some alliances and stuff to really get through the tournament and just to navigate like life in general. And so I'm someone who absolutely loves competition. I don't know how I feel about vampires. The verdict is still out on that, because I've had some hits and I've had a lot of misses when it comes to vampires. So I'm interested to see if like this is something that I really like. And then if I do like it, there is like kind of a novella that goes along with that first book, and that is 6 Scorched Roses. And so it's definitely very short, but I've heard that like there's like a main book and then a novella for like each book in the series. I will also say that I love when books are hardcover, but there's no like dust jacket. I really wish that people would do this more. And then the last book that I borrowed from a friend is actually Magnolia Park. So I feel like this is probably a book that I may not like actually vlog. I think I'm gonna read it towards the end of the year, just as like a palate cleanser for myself, because again, I heard this book is messy. And I like mess. I've heard that it's kind of like Gossip Girl, that like the relationship is very Chuck and Blair. I actually tried to buy this book myself at Barnes & Noble, but I could only find the really ugly cover. And so I just didn't buy it, but my friend, she had invested in buying like the UK covers. So she's letting me borrow this until I can like get my own, and just to make sure that I actually like the book first. And if you're curious, the book that I lent to her was Trees, and that was one of my few 5-star reads that I've had this year. So I'm really hoping that she likes it. And it got brought up because Dua Lipa is actually reading it for her book club, so I let her borrow that. But the last category we have are books that I bought with my own money. Okay, and the first 3 are books that I actually bought for videos or things that I'm doing for YouTube. And so the first 2 were actually the same book. And so if you watch my latest vlog, you have already seen these. But that is The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. I ended up buying 2 copies just because I'm indecisive. That's literally the only reason, because I've seen this cover before and I was like, oh, I really like it. But then I was on Pango and I also saw this cover and I was like, I also really like that, and I have never seen it before. And both copies together with shipping were only like $12. So I was like, might as well. So I ended up like using this copy to like physically read, and then I think I may just keep this one in the package for now. There's really no reason for me to take it out, but I did learn that like certain stories aren't in certain editions, and then some stories are. It's like very hit and miss depending on what versions that you have. So I'm really glad that I have both. And make sure you go watch that video because I actually really enjoyed this book. So if you're interested in the Martian Chronicles, definitely recommend, especially if you're someone who's into sci-fi. And then the third book I got specifically for video or YouTube of some sort is actually The Treasure Hunters Club by Tom Ryan. And I got this because I will actually be a co-host over on the Literally Dead book club, and that is Kayla's book club from Books and Lala. I'm so excited to be a co-host, and so that live show will be happening on November 2nd. So if you're interested in hearing our thoughts about that, make sure that you're joining that live show. And I feel like this may be like one step above a cozy mystery because it is a murder mystery, but I feel like there's probably some other things happening in the book that I'm hoping are just going to be really fun. And this does say a murder mystery about secret societies, pirate lore, cryptic clues, and a fabulous treasure to die for. So excited to read this. I'm hoping that I like it. I feel like the group of people that will be talking about this, I think will have a lot of thoughts. So again, make sure you're subscribed to Kayla if you're not already so you don't miss the live show for this. And then the next 4 books are books that I am so excited about. And these are the times that I wish that I just read faster because I would love to get to all 4 of these this year, but we're like 2 months out from the end of the year, so I don't know if that's really gonna happen. And so the first book is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. And this follows a woman who is a marine biologist, and she ends up going on an expedition, but when she gets back, her wife is like, yo, you're not right. Something went on down there and I need to know what it is because something is going on. And so I've heard nothing but good things about this book. And it's funny because even as I'm talking through the synopsis, it's hard for me to even think about feedback that people have had about this book and things that they've really liked about it. And so I feel like I'm really going into this book with a fresh slate. And I really love that when I go into a book knowing that people loved it, but having no idea why. And it's fairly short. So again, this is another book that I'm hoping that I can get to at the end of the year. And these next 3 books are books that I strongly feel like I'm gonna give at least a 4 or 5 star. And the first one is The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgkinson. And so this book has quickly been taking over BookTube. And so as I mentioned before, I love books that have some type of competition involved. And so this story follows an empire where once the reigning person dies, they have this competition to figure out who's gonna replace him. And so there are 7 people competing, but then one of them ends up mysteriously dying. And our main character, she not only has to still compete to become this new emperor, but she's also trying to figure out who killed her fellow competitor. And this is a chunky book, but I feel like, you know, I'm really maturing because thick books aren't as scary to me as they once were. And I feel like the text in here, like the font is actually kind of big, which I love. And so I feel like I'll feel so accomplished once I finish this, but it's another book that I've heard literally nothing, absolutely nothing but good things about. So I'm also hoping to get to this in the next few months. And then the next book is actually 2 books in one, and that is The Killer on the Road. And then if you do this, we have The Babysitter Lives by Stephen Graham Jones. And so it is 2 books in one. And I actually picked this up. Stephen Graham Jones did come to my city for like an author tour for this book. And so I got to hear him speak, which I really loved because I'm not gonna lie, the way that he writes, I'm concerned for his mental health sometimes, but he turned out to be one of like the funniest, most down-to-earth people ever. And it really made me feel better about some of the stuff that he writes. He is definitely one of my favorite authors at this point. So I'm definitely excited to get into both of these, especially because he did talk a little bit about both. And so The Babysitter Lives follows a babysitter who is watching 2 kids. One of them ends up sleepwalking, but then when she goes to get him and she's coming back to the house is not like a normal house, and it's starting to get a little spooky ooky. And then The Killer on the Road follows essentially a serial killer who like picks up hitchhikers, but I think the way this is written, you're not necessarily sure who the victims are and then who is like the actual serial killer. So I love Stephen Graham Jones's writing. It's so atmospheric. It makes your stomach boil, but I always still enjoy his work. I just feel like it's so unique. And then the last book on this list, and one that I'm absolutely, I think, gonna pick up as soon as I stop record on this, and that is Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. I'm so excited about this. One, because I've heard that it's kind of like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy when it comes to like the humor, but also because there are already like 6 or 7 books in this series. So that means that if I like this, I don't have to wait for the next books. I can just continue reading if I want to. This is another one that I think took BookTube by storm probably 2-ish years ago, and it's just continued to roll since then. And this book follows a scenario where aliens take over the human race, and then anybody who survives has to go through this televised show essentially to survive. And so the aliens are just getting to watch them on TV. I know that there is like a cat sidekick, I guess, in this, where like Carl has a cat and they're going through this survival together. But I've heard that the humor in this is really good. I heard that like the world in here is like really interesting. Pacing is good. And this just sounds kind of kooky, but in a way that I think I'll really enjoy. And I actually did a video where I tried to battle my 5-star predictions against each other to see which one I think would be like a 6-star read for me. And this is the book that I think is going to be a 6-star read. Like, something about it I'm just super excited about and that I think I'll really enjoy. So I got this from a local bookstore when I went with a friend, and I got lucky enough because this was technically a used copy, so I got a little 20% off. We love a good discount. But I'm literally so excited. I feel like I'm just in a space right now where I just want to mood read, and I'm in the mood for this. So I think I'm gonna pick that up next. So make sure you're subscribed so you can see me reading this. But that wraps up my little mini book haul. Let me know down below in the comments, where's the last place you hauled a book from? Was it from a friend? Was it from the library? Did you buy something? Was it gifted to you? So interested to see where you're getting your books from. And leave a book stack emoji if you made it to the end. And as always, you are my absolute favorite, and I'm so glad that you're here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.